everybody, I'm Kimberly Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and today I'm going to show you a really exquisite cake recipe. This is a Christmas chocolate log. Although you could eat this cake any time of year, it'd be a beautiful presentation. It's all chocolatey and it looks like a log. You could serve it anytime, but it is traditionally eaten at Christmas time. Now I came upon this really cool little ebook called A Grandmother's Family Favorites, and she was based out of Cornwall, England, so I think that this is going to be a really cool little recipe to show you. So I'm starting with 3 eggs, and I'm going to separate the whites from the yolks, and I like to use a little bowl so that I make sure that there's no shells in there before I add it to my mix master here. And I just like to do it with my fingertips because I feel like it just works that much better for me. I'm going to reserve the yolks for the rest of the cake, but the whites need to be beaten stiffly first. Into my mixer. Now you could use a hand mixer or a standing mixer today, either one. And we're gonna whip those up. You wanna make sure it has stiff peaks. All right, let's check these guys out. Make sure that they're stiff. They look like they're pretty stiff to me. It's sticking into the beater. It's doing very well. That's pretty darn stiff, I'd say, wouldn't you? All right, so that's good. Now we're gonna pull this off, and we're just gonna let this sit for a minute while we get the rest of everything mixed together. So here you go. It's all stuck in here. That's nice and stiff. Okay? So I'm using my paddle attachment for this little part here. And this is actually 2 recipes in this little ebook. The first one is Hulda's chocolate cake. That's what it's called. And then the other one is Christmas log. Okay? So that's how we're getting this all organized. So I'm going to add my oil. I have 1/2 cup of any kind of cooking oil you like. I would prefer probably vegetable or canola. This is vegetable today. I have 3/4 of a cup of plain white sugar, and I have 1/2 cup of water. And as we know, oil and water don't mix, so we've got to really try and blend this up together. The sugar should help emulsify it a slight bit. I'm going to blend that together. Let that go for just a couple minutes. All right, that looks good. Now, in a separate bowl, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sift this stuff. You don't have to, but I want to make sure that there's no chunky bits in my flour or my baking powder or anything like that. So I have 1 cup of flour that I'm going to sift into a bowl, alongside a pinch of salt, 1/4 cup of cocoa, and 3 heaping teaspoons of baking powder. Now in the ebook it says that this is a recipe from South Africa. One of her friends, this is grandmother from England, and she went on a little trip there and picked up this recipe. So that's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna sift this into my bowl. And I'm glad I did because I have some little chunks that we could get rid of. Also, sifting your dry ingredients makes your cake a lot fluffier, lighter and fluffier. So I have my oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have a nice little Swiss roll or jelly roll pan prepared with some parchment. I just cut it to size, and then I snipped the corners so that it would easily fit in there, okay? So that's prepared. To this bowl, I'm going to add my oil and water and sugar mixture. And then we're going to add it right back to this bowl so that we can continue getting things prepared. So I'm just going to fold that in like that. Stir that in nicely. It smells heavenly. I love the smell of cocoa. Oh, gorgeous. I like this little idea of blending that water and the oil and the sugar together. I've never exactly done it that way before. It's a very interesting technique. Lovely. Now I'm going to put this back into my mixing bowl so that I can continue adding my eggs. I want everything to be mixed together nicely. Oh, that looks nice. Now if you have 3 of these beautiful mixing bowls, then you're golden. That's tasty. Okay. So, paddle back on, and we are actually going to stir in our egg yolks. And I think that's good. It's always a good policy not to overwork your batter for a cake, okay? All right, now we're gonna do some handiwork here. Now I'm sure by this point, if you're making this cake right now, you have tasted this chocolate bit. Don't worry that this may not be real sweet. because we're gonna make a beautiful butter icing for the center of this that's going to sweeten it up. Plus you're gonna put chocolate on the outside and icing sugar, so don't worry. I'm gonna fold in my egg whites into this mixture. You wanna keep things nice and light and fluffy. I'm gonna do half at a time. Ooh, that's nice and stiff. These are perfect. Okay, so we're gonna fold them in, work them from the outside in, and just get the egg whites folded in there. That's gonna add a lot of air to this cake. It's gonna be so lovely. And once you have that sort of combined, add the rest. You don't want to collapse all that nice air that you've incorporated into your egg whites now, and that's going to just lighten this cake. It's going to make it rise beautifully. So you just want to stir it in and fold just to combine it, okay? You don't want chunks of egg whites, but you don't want to make it completely smooth like you've blended it, okay? Just keep working that in. A couple more swirls and we should be good here. Not only has this lightened it in texture, but it's also lightened it in color as well. And this looks beautiful. So this is what we have going on here right now, okay? Deliciousness going on. So my oven has preheated. I'm actually gonna bake it on a convection setting. If you have one, that's great. If not, you're still gonna be okay. So that's 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm gonna pour this into my pan here. I'm just gonna give the batter a little bit of a tilt to make sure that it's in all the corners evenly. Let it flood out everywhere. So that'll do it. Into the oven it's going right now for 20 minutes or until the center of the sponge is a little firm. And I'm gonna get this icing prepared. Okay, so we're gonna make our buttercream icing while our cake is in the oven. And I have 110 grams of unsalted butter here. Into it goes. It's actually room temperature so that it can easily get creamed up. You want it to be nice and smooth and soft. And that's what I'm going to do first. I'm using my paddle attachment and we're going to cream the butter up. So I have measured out 190 grams of icing sugar, also called confectioner's sugar. And I'm going to slowly, gradually add this to my butter and make a beautiful icing. So, here we go. You're going to want to scrape down the sides of the bowl to make sure that everything is getting incorporated. Scrape down your beater as well. And beat that until it's completely smooth. I'm going to scrape down the sides one more time. It's looking perfect. And continue beating it till it's nice and smooth and soft. And this icing looks great. We're done. Okay? Let me show you what it looks like. A nice, soft, light, creamy, fluffy icing. Let's have a little taste. I love buttercream icing. Woo! Okay, so let's get this off of the beater. All right, our cake looks like it's done. Let's take a look at it. There you go. It looks beautiful. It's nice and fluffy. Press the center, make sure it's a little bit firm, and it is. Okay, so I'm just putting my cake on a cooling rack for a second while I get some things prepared here. Now I'm going to use another cookie sheet and with some parchment. Now I'm going to sprinkle some regular white sugar on my parchment. Just a nice little dusting here. So let's just move that around a little bit. So the sugar is going to add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of crunch, and it's also going to help us roll this cake out. So what I need to do now is I need to flip this upside down onto this sugar. Ready? Beautiful. See how lovely that cake turned out. So now I'm going to just peel off the parchment that I have here that the cake baked in. Don't worry about a little bit of imperfections on the sides because we're actually going to cut those sides off a little bit. Okay? What a lovely cake. Beautiful. I'm going to put this on the cooling rack now. All right, put that on the cooling rack. There's what you have. That's what I'm working with now. Okay? All right. Now this cake is nice and thin, so it will actually cool off relatively quickly. But in the meantime, I'm going to add this beautiful buttercream icing to the top of the cake here. And we're going to spread it out while it's still a little bit warm. So just spread that out evenly on the surface of the cake. The fact that it's a little bit warm helps spread the icing a little easier, a little thinner. So you want to coat all this nice cake. Don't go all the way to the edges because as you roll the cake, it tends to kind of ooze out a little bit. So just leave it maybe, I don't know, an inch away from the edge, half an inch maybe. Ooh, it smells so good. So here's what we've got going on right now. So it's easier to work the cake, to move it, to maneuver it while it's warm, and that's what we're gonna do. We need to roll this guy up, and we're gonna kind of use the same idea as rolling sushi, and you're gonna let this parchment kind of help guide your way. On top of that, we're going to melt some beautiful chocolate, whatever kind of chocolate you want. I just have some plain chocolate here. It's 110 grams. So let's get this cake rolled up. Okay, so I'm going to roll this. You're going to start with as tiny a roll as you can. And as you roll, continue rolling this, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So let the parchment help you roll. So I'm being sort of an artist at this point, and I'm just cutting some of the edges off if you need to make it a little bit more round, and the edges on this ends here so that they're nice and even. Now we're going to use these little bits because they're going to help us create the effect of little branches and things off of our log. Okay, so cut the ends off so they're nice and level on the sides. And we have a beautiful little log shape here going on. So I'm going to add these little bits sort of to the top as though they're branches kind of broken off, and we're going to cover everything with a layer of chocolate, and that's going to be a beautiful thing. So now I'm going to transfer this very gently to another sheet with a cooling rack so that I can use the chocolate and it can kind of drip through. Now sometimes your jelly roll will roll perfectly and sometimes it may break a little bit, but that's okay because we're going to make it still look absolutely beautiful. Take some little pieces and add them artistically to your log and try and organize it so it kind of looks like little pieces of branch are coming off, right? You want it to look like kind of a rustic log, and then you're going to coat it with the chocolate. Everything's going to look beautiful. They say like a bump on a log. Well, that's what you're making, some bumps. So that's what I've done. I've added a couple little bumps here and there on this side too, and they'll kind of look like little branches coming off that are maybe broken. And these little bits of cake, well, I guess you just get to snack on those. So you could melt your chocolate in the microwave, or you can use a double boiler. I'm using a double boiler today, just so that you don't scorch your chocolate. So I'm just using this melted chocolate, and I'm trying to just coat everything on here so that it looks like bark, okay? So we want to get all these little pieces. It also covers up any of your imperfections you may have had. Spread it as thinly as you can. If your chocolate hardens up again, just put it back on the double boiler. Remelt it. Now, trees have little eyes on them and little knots in their wood, and that's exactly what we're accomplishing here. That's exactly what you want. Now I'm going to use one of my silicone wide bristle basting brushes, and I'm going to just run it along the length of the cake, making sort of it look like the lines of the bark, right? So now I'm just kind of being a little bit more creative. Plus you can fill in any little bits that you might not have covered with the chocolate. Just run that along so it kind of looks like the wood grain. Now, if you were worried, you shouldn't be, because now you have a cake that looks like a log. I have those beautiful grains on there. These look like little knobs coming off of the log, like in real life. Trees aren't perfect. See how we have those lines? It looks like so. Now we have to let this chocolate set before we can put our icing sugar on, and I'm going to pick some holly leaves from my bush outside so that I can decorate it. Okay, so we're just going to leave this be, and you'll see what it looks like when we finish decorating. So I'm going to let this set up on my serving plate. I'm just going to transfer it as gently as possible. Be ever so careful. Perfect. as it's drying, it's looking even more like a log. I hope that you can see it a little better. There you go. It really does from this angle. I hope that you can tell. Anyway, I'm excited. All right, so I've picked some lovely holly from the plant we have outside, and I've let my chocolate cool. It has set now. I put it in the refrigerator, or you can put it in a cold area of your home, and you can see how the lines, the grains of the bark, it really looks like a log now, doesn't it? With these little bits on the end here, the little eyes on the tree, lovely little stumps sort of broken off branches. All right, so now to finish off the look, what we're gonna do is we're just going to sprinkle with some icing sugar. You have to make sure that that chocolate has set before you do that, or you're gonna have a problem. So we're just going to lightly dust it, make it look like it's snowed. All around, all around. Get some on the plate as well, it looks beautiful. So add your piece of holly, and you have an absolutely beautiful chocolate log cake. You can see that the snow has fallen in the little grains. It looks so beautiful. And that's it. That's how you do it. I think it turned out beautifully. Well, I hate to cut into it and try it, but we've got to do that. I love that the basting brush did a beautiful job making those lines. Really impressed. If you wanted to add some more icing sugar, you may, but I kind of like it that it's a light dusting, so you can still see some of the chocolate underneath. You can still see some kind of texture and design. All right, so let's cut off a little piece and see how we did. It slices nicely. The outside has that nice chocolate that's nice and set. Look at that. Lovely. You can dust it with a little bit more sugar, especially this end piece. Mom's gonna love that one. So let's give this bad boy a try. The cake is nice and fluffy inside. That buttercream icing is so good. Boy, that's good. The shell, I guess the person that gets the end piece is lucky. They get that extra bit of chocolate with that extra bit of shell. That's a really lovely cake. It's light and fluffy. It's chocolatey. Ooh, it's Christmassy. Well, I can definitely see why this would be a grandmother's family favorite recipe. It is really delicious. It is especially festive. And with the holly, it's just gorgeous. You can make this anytime of year. Again, you don't have to put the icing sugar on and make it snowy. It could be a spring log cake, I guess. But it's really, really lovely, and it's very traditional for Christmas. So I hope that you try it. Make sure that you get onto Amazon and check out that ebook, A Grandmother's Family Favorites. Okay? Lovely, lovely recipe. And try it out. Follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim E with a capital E. Like the fan page at facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on ifood.tv/cookingwithkimberly, youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly, and you can find me syndicated on Roku. Come to my website at cookingwithkimberly.com and subscribe, interact with us, and let us know what's going down in your culinary world, all right? Be a champion in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.